Okay, now that we have our view page adapter done, the majority of the work that we need to do is actually going to be inside of our quotes or quote fragment. Okay, let's go to quote fragment here. This is where we're going to do majority of the work. Incidentally, we also have to do work inside of our fragment quote XML, which is where we are going to add our designs and whatever we want to see once we connect everything with our view pager. Needless to say, I'm going to get rid of all of this because we don't need that. Let's go ahead and start putting together our amazing user interface. Well, the idea here is very simple. We want to have a text that says author, and of course a card view which will contain another text view, which is going to be the actual quote. So I'm going to go ahead and say, first thing I'm going to go ahead and say card view. Now the thing about card view, because we haven't added our library, I like to go back to design and say search, say card view, there it is, and just drop it anywhere here. Say okay, because that will just allow us to sync everything up and get our card view into our project. And once that's synced up, go back to text and voila, magic, there it is. All right, let's go ahead and customize things a little bit here, folks. I'm going to say wrap content, of course, for the width as well as for the height, and I just want to get rid of all of this because we are going to hard code it. In fact, the width, I'm going to change the width to be 350 dp, and the height is going to be about 210. How about that? Such, and there's other properties because we are talking about a card. In fact, let's go say center horizontal to true, so it's in the middle there. And I don't like the fact that it's at the top. I want it to be about here, the bottom there. Let's go ahead and check it out. I'm going to say margin top about 90 dp, maybe a little bit more, about 190. How about that? Okay, that looks good. Very nice. So the next thing I'm going to do, let's give a card elevation of about 12 dp. There we go. In fact, let's get rid of this because this is not a good strategy. Let's just say, instead of the margin top, let's say center vertical to be true. That way it's in the middle of the screen. That's a better strategy. I like that much better. For now, let's give a background color of color primary dark as such. This has to be card background color. Okay, next we're gonna go, let's say card background color. I'm gonna give it a primary dark color as such. That's not too bad. All right, so I think we're good there. Now I want to make sure that this card actually has children, so I'm gonna go ahead and go like this. Now it has, we can add children to our card, which is going to be a text view, a wrap content. And the good thing about text views, I'm going to go back to design here. In fact, let's go back here. I'm going to give it an ID before we do anything. And this is going to be quote text. Let's give it a text so we can see where things are situated. I'm going to give an app name for now. There it is. Let's give a text color of white. There we go. And the cool thing here is that what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to design, click on this text, and I'm going to search for font. This is new with Android 3.0, which is amazing. You can now add fonts to our text. And also you can go to more fonts and get more of this. Let's find something that will be good. How about this one? Okay, let's try that one. That looks good. We can change whenever we want, but that's fine. Okay, let's actually say text align. I want to make sure that it's centered. Say gravity, layout gravity. I want it to be centered, so I want the text to be in the middle as such. Okay, It's very nice. The next thing I want to do is I want to be able to have at the bottom here, we're going to have the author's name. For that to work, I'm going to go outside of our card. I'm going to say text, view, wrap content again. And this is going to be ID. I'm going to call this by author. I'm going to say center, horizontal to be true. And I want this to be below, of course, our card, which we haven't created. Let's go ahead. Oh, we haven't added the ID. I'm going to say ID here. Card view as such. Okay, so now that text should be below there. Let's give it a little text that way we can actually see. There we go. You can see it says author. Now let's change the font as well. More font. Let's find something more cursive, perhaps. How about that one? Okay, let's try that one. Perhaps something different. Sure, that looks good. Again, you can always change. There's the font. For some reason, it's not showing. Let's go back and maybe change it to something else just to make sure. All right, there we go. And I'm going to change the size to make it a little bit bigger. So let's say size about 45 SB, like that. Okay. Let's change this to cursive. There we go. I like that much better. Much better. Okay. Again, you can play around with this. It's not the end of the world if you find something else. Not a problem at all. And as we've discussed before, you have to get into the habit of making all of this your own, because that's the whole idea, right? We're building these apps and showing you all of this. It's not for you just to copy and paste. It's for you to actually understand and build upon what I'm showing you. All right? Perfect. I think that's all we need for now. And this looks wonderful. All right, so now that we have our user interface nicely done here for our quote fragment, let's go to our quote fragment.java, because this is where we actually going to structure everything within our view. So now that we have our view, I'm going to go ahead and create a text view here. Text view. And I'm going to call this quote text. And I'm going to say quote view, because we need to use the quote view, which is the one that contains our fragment quote, which is what we've been working on. I'm going to say dot find view r.id dot quote text. So again, what I'm doing here, I'm just fetching this quote text here so we can do things to it. The beauty, folks, the beauty. This is wonderful. All right, so we have our quote text here. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing, text view again, or yes, text view. And I'm going to say by author, and you guessed it, find view, again by ID, r.id dot by author as such. Let's go ahead and get our card view as well, because we are going to dynamically do a few things with it. I'm going to call this card view, quote view, that find view, r.id dot card view. All right, so let's set things up here. Since we are talking about fragments here, the next thing we need to do, because these fragments are going to be called dynamically in our main, which will then connect them to our view pager, which the view pager, of course, connects to our JSON API, which contains all of the objects, all of the quotes. With that said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a helper method here, which is going to be a static quote fragment. So I'm going to say PSF. It's going to be for static final. That's the beauty of using IntelliJ or of using Android Studio. Say enter. Now we're going to say quote fragment. Okay, this has to have the same name as our class here. I'm going to say new instance. Now, what are we going to do here? as you can see, this quote fragment, it's going to be called, this new instance of type quote fragment will be called to create an actual fragment which will contain a quote and the author, which means obviously we have to pass here a quote string, and another string is going to be of the author. Okay, so of course this has to return an actual fragment. So let's construct a fragment here. I'm going to say quote fragment. Call this fragment. I'm going to just go ahead and instantiate our fragment, okay, as such. And then I need to create a bundle, because in order for me to fetch and pass arguments or pass data between the fragment, within the fragments and activity, I have to create a bundle. Okay, I'm going to say bundle here is equal to new bundle. Now what I'm going to put in that bundle, oops, this is going to be equal to new as such. Looks like we are having some issue here. No, this has to be new quote fragment. There we go. All right, so now that we have our bundle here, I'm going to say bundle. I'm going to put a string. The key is going to be quote, and the string or the value is going to be quote. Which quote? Well, this string that we're passing here. And you will see all this in action. I'm going to say bundle again, put string. This is going to be author, and we're going to pass author. Okay. Once we have our bundle, then we can say fragment, this fragment here, and we're going to set arguments. This is the same as the activity when we say put extra, right? The same thing here. For when we're talking about fragments, we don't have, it's not an activity, right? So fragments work with activities. They're not activities per se. So we have to use the set fragments or set arguments. Okay, and then I'm going to pass here the bundle, which will contain the quote and author. All right, once all of that is done and said, I'm going to just return our beautifully crafted fragment. That's it. Okay. Which means now inside here of our own create, when things are being created, what we can do, okay, now I can say string, call this quote, for instance, and I can say get arguments, because we are inside of a fragment, so I can just call the get arguments, and I can say dot get string. I'm going to say quote, right? It has to be the same name as we're passing here. So I'm saying, hey, from this fragment, just get me whatever we've been passing as we created when we created this fragment. Okay, in this case, it's going to be quote, and I can say string name, or say author, get arguments, get string, we'll call this author as such. Have to be the same names because these are the keys, right? So now, because we have our quote text view and an author, we can literally just go ahead and say here quote text dot set text, and what we're going to pass, we pass our quote, because it will have the quotes from our remote server. And I can say now by author text view dot set text, and I'm going to pass author. But for now, what I'm going to do also, I'm going to pass a concatenate here, something like that. So it's going to be, for instance, dash Paulo Duchon or something, right? We'll stop here for now. In the next video, we'll continue with our onCreate view, and we'll put together the view pager and start communicating view pager and our fragment. All right, I'll see you next.